Started.
Only conflict. Hello there.
So this is like this was like conceptually fine with what you did, generally, but I'd like to see you, whenever possible, try to end a combo on high ground. So right here, right, this punch, so not right here, this punch going in was good, right, and then the slam for AoE damage, because on the falling off the purple was also good, and then you uppercut it, which is great, and you got the shots, right, but it's not hard for you at that point to just like land on the high ground, right, like you just drift a bit to your right and you'll be there, right. So like, I just want to be like kind of like drilled in that like whenever you go for anything on Doom, right, if possible, right, like try to land on the high ground, either at the end of an uppercut or like when you go for like a slam uppercut, then when you punch out, try to land towards the high ground, right? Because high ground just gives you so many more options of Doom that it's just kind of not worth it to like, or not worth it's really worth it to devote that little bit of extra like mental energy to like ending somewhere where you're still set up, right, to make plays. So like right now, for example, I don't really want you pushing up that far, to be honest, because they're all spawning really fast because they all died so early before you even got on point. But you can still set up somewhere on high ground that isn't on point, right? You can be like up here, right? And you can be scouting to see where they're going in, and maybe they leave their backline behind as the front line goes in, right? For the recontest, and you just kill their backline, right? Or you can hang out like over here, where like they come in, right? And again, their backline will be in the arch. They're not gonna be looking up here, right? And you just get a free combo, right? But I would like to see you just like set up earlier on high ground and just really, oh, that's not you. Really focus on it. It's fine. Oh my god, I can't. Okay, there we go. There's a lot of sitting around. Alright, that's unfortunate. So I'm never really a fan of ending a combo with uppercut unless the high ground's like right next to you, right? Or like you get a lot of results off your play, right? So once you get the punch on the Rein, it's a Rein, right? So at that point I'd like to see you just like uppercut and just like slam over here so it's faster, or slam back into your team, right? Either one would probably be better than what this ended up being, right? So like the slam damage is like, it's just kind of not worth it, especially when your punch like was on the Rein, right? It wasn't on anyone you were actually threatening a real kill on, right? So once you get the punch, right, and it's not gonna like result in anything, like really be careful about overcommitting to like the slam uppercut, right? Because this was like, I don't even think you were thinking about this until like you punched up and you realized like, where do I go? Or you uppercutted up and you're like, where do I go, right? So like I would really prefer though, if you don't get immediate like big results on your punch, right, to just like uppercut and then slam out, or slam to high ground or slam out, right? Yeah. Alright, so don't path this way, right? Path this way. Like, not, this applies for actually a lot of DPS in general. But like, especially like high ground, like limited characters, like Doomfist. Or just like, I don't know, hit scans like Soldier or whatnot, right? But just like walk this way, right? That way you don't have to commit cooldowns to get up here, right? Or if you're gonna walk out this way, like just like, I don't know, just uppercut immediately and start going this way. But now you're down a cooldown as opposed to just like fixing with pathing, right? So like, if you're not sure whether or not you need to help out around here, right? This is fine. Just like make sure you come up here, right? That's fine. What? What was that? Alright, I need to see that. That's not you. Oh my god. That Reaper is like, he's upset. Oh my god. Yeah, just chill. I would really like you to, instead of like going for a combo, right, just like punch over and see if like just punch out essentially, like get above them and see if there's anyone like hanging out here, and then decide whether or not you can afford to blow cooldowns like going in, right? Because like you can like punch, right, and then like if like you decide you don't want to go in, right, but you want to like still want to pull attention, right? You can just slam over here, right, and you're chilling, right? Or if like you realize that that there's no one here, and you want to fight, right? You can punch out, right? And as you're landing, as you're coming down on them, you uppercut, right? And then again, you can decide whether or not like you can shoot this guy. You can decide whether or not you want to commit for the kill with a slam, right? Or you can like slam out, right? You can like land on this high ground again, right? Or slam back into your team, right? But that's kind of like a big part about being, it's very easy as Doom to be very committal, right? So a large part about Doom is figuring out like how to be less committal while still using like the same cooldown. So here you can punch out, right? You get directly on top of them, and then you can make a decision whether or not you can be committal, right? And if you want to be a little committal, you can drop down and uppercut, right? And you're still not committed because you still have slam to escape, right? And in the meantime, you're still fishing with a kill because it's an uppercut right on top of the bat, right? But that's kind of how I want you to think about the cooldowns. Right? This is very committal. Okay, so it's not that committal because you can still save a cooldown to escape, right? You're probably going to slam uppercut and then punch out somewhere, right? But the thing is, like, you landed from on top of them, right? You didn't divert any attention in any particular way, right? So, like, even though, like, Doomfist is close range here, blah, 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 you can still do, like, angle play, right? That's why I was talking about this punch out over here, right? You just, like, charge a punch, and then, where's the camera? Okay. And then, like, cancel it out here. You fly way over this guy, right? And then you can, like, land on top of him. You'd be, like, almost perfectly spaced for, like, this uppercut, right? Or you can uppercut the Sig, right? And then you can slam somewhere, right? But this is like you landed in front of them, so you're going to take a lot of damage. You're going to uppercut, you're going to take even more damage, and then you're going to punch out, and you may or may not even still die, right? Oh, there's a shatter. Okay, saved. But you took a lot of damage just like landing that slam, right? And it wasn't even intentional from the enemy team, I'm pretty sure. This is fine. You're chasing. Alright, I'd like to see you set up on high ground somewhere. I'm pretty sure you are. Yeah, I remember this. Yeah, this is fine. The Reaper. Big nano. Doing whatever you want. And I really like this. Like, again, right? Even though you're nanoed, you end back on the high ground, right? You drop punch, you slam, you uppercut, you're back on the high ground. I really like this. Right, and that gives you a free second punch, right? Does this guy live? I don't remember. Oh no, you killed him, I remember. So while this is going on, I'd like to see you just like punch over here, transition, right? Because like you know where the enemy team is, you know they're over here, and you don't want to approach from the front, right? So if they're gonna come over here, right? You don't want to be just like having to like just slam or punch them from the front, right? So you'd rather be over here. They have very little that can actually push you off, right? And then also like you have a lot of time to set up right now. Blowing a cooldown for right now is like nothing, right? So just like if you do this faster, they might not even know, right? But this position like it's pretty good for staging. But if you already know where they're setting up, right, this is probably better. Plus your Hanzo's already here, right? So. Alright, well they didn't know you were here before. That's Skamaz. I would highly recommend not jumping there. And more AD spamming and crouching and changing direction. Moving your hitbox around. Alright, you can start taking map control a lot earlier in this. Your Ryan's already back, so I'd like to see you like at least transitioning more to this side of the map. Or like getting over here and setting up for like a play onto this high ground, right? But this is, you're kind of lagging really far behind right now. I don't know if you're calling ults or something for the team, but if you can do that while taking map control, even better. Oh, this is sketch. This is very sketch. Okay. That's also sketch. So this is something I noticed. Like, it wasn't that bad here, because, I mean, it was just a Hanzo, and then he got beated, so that was really unfortunate. But I would encourage you not to think about Doomfist ult like a damage ult, right? It's, like, Doomfist ult is pretty good for damage. It's, like, it's okay. But compared to a lot of other damage ults, it's kind of bad, right? In terms of area denial, like, Dragon Strike is just way better, and plus it does more damage if you can, like, get it on people. Soldier ult is better at killing people somehow. High Noon has more zoning effect, right? Because like you can play really far back and cover a lot of area. Even like these bad DPS ults are better at being DPS ults than the Doomfist ult, right? So I just want to emphasize that like Doom Assault is generally speaking a positioning tool or like a repositioning tool, right? So you blow all your cooldowns, you go really deep, you force a lot of attention, and then you get a get a jail free card, right? And then land, and then like wait a couple seconds, and then you can land on the high ground, get some healing back, and now you have all your cooldowns, right? And Doomfist's base cooldowns are really strong, right? Just in terms of killing people, which is kind of unusual for a lot of DPS characters, right? Their cooldowns are like okay usually, but Doomfist's base cooldowns are really strong as long as you set up for them, right? As long as he's already staged, and like Doomfist ult is like a free way to get a second stage, right? A second stage attempt. So like that was fine, right? Because I mean Hanzo was kind of low, right? You did some damage, right? But I just want to encourage you to think about like Doomfist ult more as a repositioning tool than a damage tool, generally.
I need healing. Healing.
This is good. Wait. Ah. Okay, never mind. You're not dropping. We're chilling. Oh, unfortunate. Alright, this is, again, where it gets really risky, right? Because you're very, very likely to die here. In fact, you're almost certainly going to die unless you get bailed out really hard with a bubble or something. Because, like, again, if you think about the way you use your cooldowns, right? You punched in, right? Which is okay. I would have preferred to see you slam in, generally. I know why you punched, but I would have preferred, like, just to drop slam or something. And then uppercut, and then you can punch out. But, like, you punched in, and then you slam to follow up, and then you uppercut it without a high ground that, like, puts you out of LOS, right? So now you're just trapped in here, right? You have nowhere to, you have nothing you can do, and you have no ult, right? If you had ult, this would be better, right? But you don't have ult. So like, again, gotta focus on staying alive because like if you commit too hard as Doom, you just die. And if you die at the end of third point, your team is probably going to get held. Not probably, but it's like, it's more likely to get held, right? So just don't allow that to happen. Wow, you didn't die. That's incredible. Well, all right. If you could, again, if you died here, why did you die here, right? We just go back a couple seconds. Slam, right? Off on the Ryan, that's fine. Uppercut that you missed, right? And now your choices are you can just reset and wait for your cooldowns, and it'll probably work out, right? By just like punching out, rejoining your team, maybe even like killing this Babon cart, right? But you're going to commit with this punch to go in, and before you get cooldowns back, you're going to die. Or you're going to be in a fight that, like, you're probably going to die unless he chokes really hard, right? So again, like, either go for the punch, right? Either go for the fast punch and cancel it, or not cancel, but, like, just, like, let it go really fast, right? And just try and get some, like, stun damage for your shotgun, right? Or stun for your shotgun. Or just, like, when you uppercut and you don't get him, right? Like, don't overcommit, right? Just punch back out. Because you're almost definitely going to die right now. Yeah, okay. You should have died earlier too, but either the McCree or the Zarya just missed everything. Or both. There. I was watching that area, probably shouldn't have gone boop there, which is probably the real reason why we lost, but like you dying did not help, right? I would have liked a punch engage here. Because like, punch... Oh, I went way too far back. So like slam is really good when you're engaging off high ground and from unexpected angles where you don't want to make a lot of sound on your way in, right? So the problem is this is not high ground. It's from the front, right? And you're actually kind of far away. So like the slam is kind of hard to land on a lot of people, right? So it's good for AoE damage. It's good for like silent engages more or less. It's good when you're like from high ground and behind where you get like a much bigger slam, right? This doesn't meet like any of that criteria, right? So and on top of that, slam engages usually end with a punch out, right? It's hard to stay in with the slam engage. Whereas like a punch in, right? Like you can commit with all your cooldowns, and your punch will be coming off cooldown as soon as like your slam and your uppercut like ending, right? So it's easier to like burn all your cooldowns and then get out, assuming you're not like being focused really hard. And it's kind of hard for them to focus because they're like trying to stall point, right? There's a lot of stuff going on, and your team's like in the middle of them, right? So I'd like to see you just like engage with punch here, just because it's more likely to get kills, and it's again, if you do need to get out at the end of your cooldown cycle, your punch will be up first, and instead of engaging with slam uppercut, where almost everything will come back up at the same time, right? So you slam uppercut, punch out, right? And then when your punch is like coming back off cooldown, everything will be coming back off cooldown, right? But like punch like staggers your cooldowns a bit more, so like that way like you punch, you slam uppercut, and then you punch come up back off cooldown very fast. So you can either use that to commit harder, or you can get out, right? But like if you just look right here, like what is this slam gonna do, right? Like this is gonna do like minimal damage. Like, did you even hit anyone? I think you might have hit someone, but it does very little damage. is not likely to lead to kills, right? I didn't even look. I'm so sorry. You maybe hit like 1 or 2 people, but it doesn't do that much damage. And then you're gonna uppercut here, and then you're gonna punch, right? And then if you look, everything's on cooldown at the same time. Do you see this, right? This is why you die. I assume you die here. You probably die soon. I know we lose this fight, so. But if you look, everything's got like exact same cooldowns, right? Nothing's like offset, right? So you have no escape, right? Because you blew all your cooldowns staying in, well, with like opening with slam, right? Make sense? Oh my god, do you get a kill here? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, punch is the shorter cooldown, right? So if you slam uppercut and then punch, right? They all come off at the same time.
I'm not
So it's very good when punch is the escape tool, because it like, and you re-escape to high ground. So like over here, right, you could like, I don't know, if you're behind them or something, you could slam, punch, or slam, uppercut, right, and then punch out to your team or punch out to high ground, right? And then once you're back here, you can do the same thing over again in like 4 to 5 seconds, right? But like, if you drop punch, for example, right, it'd be a little bit less clear, because like you'd come back with punch way before your other things, right? So, just kind of like a basic framework in which to think about your cooldowns.
payload stop.
Alright, you won the high ground fight. Nice. Just need to chill here, and then you can go for a play on their backline. Or take a duel with their Doomfist. He got owned. Alright.
Meteor strike.
Yeah, so this is something I really don't like, right? So like, I'd much prefer if like a couple seconds later you just landed here, right? You just landed here, and then like you just drop punched, or you drop slammed, right? But this is just like, you're relying way too hard on this Doomfist ult damage when it's really bad for it. Yeah. And you didn't even get your shields, right? Because it got bubbled and it got shielded by the brick. So like you actually got no shields out of this, and then you just get stunned when you land, right? It's just like your normal cooldowns are your normal cooldowns are actually so much better than your ultimate. You'd much rather use this as a repositioning tool. Also, by the way, when you're on the high ground, sorry, going back again. I know you were fishing for a punch on the BAP initially. Oh, what the? Okay. I know you were fishing for the punch. Oh, I didn't go far enough back. I keep hitting B instead of N. Why are they right next to each other? Okay, so I know why you go for this punch, because like you figure you can get the BAP, right? But again, I'd much rather see like a slam. You're on high ground, right? And I'd much rather you wait until your team's going in. So either like you punch across, right, and you wait for a good opportunity. In which case, like again, like these guys can't ignore you when you're up there, right? They can't afford to just like completely ignore you. So instead of going in right now, you could punch across and stage, and have your team go in, right? And this would be way better overall, because like your team would be pushing from one side, you'd be threatening a dive from the other side, and all you committed for this was a punch that like is probably not going to get punished. If you do get shot, right, you have an Ana who can heal you very easily, right? So like take the time, stage first before you make your play, and second, like again, we talked about like when you're on high ground and you're engaging from alternate angle, especially an angle like from over here, right? When your team's switching from this side, slam is a lot better of an engage tool, because it's quieter, right? It's less telegraph, right? Because when you drop punch, it makes a lot of noise. Everybody looks at it. You don't want to get stunned in the middle of it, right? So it's more likely to and it's easier to chain into like uppercut, and then like you can punch out again, and you're much more likely to live. And it cycles your cooldowns pretty nicely. But yeah, so I'd first go over here. It's just way safer. You're more likely to stage. You don't have to fish for this kill, right? You don't need the kill right now. You're already up, right? You're up 2, right? And they're staggered a lot. So like if your team just pushes it now, will you engage from behind, right? It's way better, right? Than just like forcing this ult right now, right? The only reason you didn't immediately explode here, kind of, was because because you punched a Reinhardt, so you stopped early, and second, you just ulted right out of it, right? And then remember when you ult, you want to reposition. I already talked about that, but yeah. But like that's the only reason you didn't explode on this punch. Oops. Alright, taking map control. Yeah, if you guys just like try to stay alive here instead of like Dylan just like running away and almost dying, you guys probably could have like retaken, but something that you can't really control. This guy's blind. Wait a second. He's an idiot. All right, he's dumb. Times 2. All right. So again, this play is just too early, right? So it's fine to engage from a slam from high ground, right? But you want to do it in a position where, like, you're coming from like an opposite angle. You want to come from an angle that's opposite from your team when your team is pulling focus, right? So right now your team hasn't even gotten in yet, right? So if you look, you're only shooting at this Rein, right? And you're gonna die before the Rein does, right? Almost guaranteed, right? Like you're eating focus from like 4 people. I mean the Doomfist isn't looking at you for some reason, but like you're eating focus from almost the entire team, right? And nano or not, you're gonna die here, right? You also have no ult to bail you out, right? Like you're just gonna die. So I'd really like to see you just like punch across over to here first, right? And then when the team's pushing in, right, then you drop and you go for like anything, right? You can slam, you can do whatever. But it's harder for these people to look at you when your team's running in at the same time, right? So like this timing is too early, and you're also engaging from an angle that's too similar to the rest of your team, right? And that's what makes this play like get shut down so hard, right? And we think about why this play worked earlier, right? This drop nano play, right? It's because your team was over here, right? And you were fighting as it happened, right? So if we go back to that actually. I go far enough back? I did not. Wow, this is really early. We capped 2 points so fast. Oh my god. Alright. So we'll just look at it from third person. Like, look at what your team is doing when this happens. Right? So these people are all looking here, right? And they're all right here. Their entire backline is moved up, right? When you drop, right, you're actually dropping the middle of their team, right? So this isn't like you like going in before your team, right? Their whole team is like busy looking at things and fighting, right? And then your Rein's going in with the bubble, right? Like I mean, your team's backing a little bit because like they're giving a lot of space. But like the general concept is like the same, right? Like these people are distracted. They have a lot to worry about, and you're right on top of them, right? And this is why this immediately results in kills. This time, the next time it happens, right? They have a CC this time. They have multiple CC actually. They bring a BAP and a Kree. I missed the fight by a large margin. Okay. They have a Brig and a Kree, right? And they're all staring at you as that happens, right? If you just look, they're all looking at you because your team is here, right? Your team is here, not here already, right? See the difference, right? If your team's right on top of them, this play is way better, right? I know it's easy to get antsy and be worried about your team dying while they're walking in, right? But like you just gotta trust them to live, right? If it doesn't live, right, you just hang out there and try again, right? But like just forcing the play is not very good. You have to be so much better than for that to make it work. And even if you're that much better, like it's just hard, and much less likely to get more value. Hey, free kill. Nope, found Doomfist. He's out. Yeah, so like don't wait, just like cross over here. He already blew his cooldowns to get out, so you want to just take the space immediately, right? And then you want to transition hopefully to over here. So this is a little bit different, right? Because last time the cart was like a little bit further back, and then your team was like holding further back, right? So in this case, you don't actually need to go all the way over here to get a entirely separate angle, because like you're kind of behind them already. Especially if you try to like lean out through here and then just like jump and then slam from behind, right? You can already get like a different angle from here, and this is less telegraphed as well, because like over here there's only one way to go, right? Which is right down this way. But this from here you actually have multiple staging positions based on how the enemy team set up around the cart. Although I wouldn't mind if you went over here anyways, right? Because they still have to deal with it, and they can't. So this Doom really wants to deal with you, but he has no idea how to get up. All right, so I get why you went for the Rein, because the rest of the team backed up as you peeked. I went too far back. But like if you see this, right, just like don't punch, right? Just like they're staring at you. They're not helping the Rein, right? Just cancel the punch and back up, right? like you have vision on them. You know what they're doing, right? They can't. They're not helping the Rhine, right? You're winning the fight, right? And then if you decide like that they're still backing up and like or they're walking forward to help the Rhine, then you can like make a play from back here. Like you can just like drop on this side, right? And then like go for a slam uppercut or something on the McCree and kill him, right? But there's no reason to like to force this play. And like I get that like this is a good reaction to realize that no, this is bad, not doing this, right? So you go for punch on the Rhine, right? But the Rhine can be helped, right? Especially when you give up your off angle, right? To push the Rhine, right? Then these people all walk forward. I almost guarantee it, right? So if you watch, right now, right? They all walk forward, right? To help this guy, right? And if you look at their general positioning, right? A second ago, all four of them were back here, right? Now they have two people helping the Rhine out, right? And they give him like, I mean, the immo was going to happen either way. And then the backline people got to the backline, I guess. I mean, I don't know what the Doom's here. This Doom has no idea what to do, but the point is like you didn't by giving up your off angle to like apply pressure to the Rhine. Like that was good pressure to the Rhine, but like it just gives up all your pressure on the backline, right? So if you just like stay here, that's pressure on the backline, whether or not you're doing anything, right? So just it's something to consider. Don't die here, please don't die here, please don't die here. Oh my god. You can't die here, it's so important. No, you're engaging with Doomfist ulti. Not like this. Not like this. Yeah, that was just really unfortunate. Alright, I'm probably going to end it here. Mostly because we're already at 26 minutes, and like defense is realistically going to be mostly the same concept. Because like realistically, if you think about it, if you're drop punching from here, right, and like the M team has to come to cart, right, like this is a defense play, right? You have control of the cart. It's basically defense. So yeah, not too much difference between Doomfist attack and defense. It's just kind of how you just like some of the risk versus reward changes a little bit, but that's about it. Yeah, so for you, I'd prioritize just like putting some thought into like how you can use cooldowns to escape more efficiently. And just know the difference between like slam engages and punch engages, right? So like a lot of times like you would punch when I would actually slam, and like the opposite, right? Yeah, Doomfist ult generally better as a positioning tool, right? Especially on like kings, right, where you can just like land up here. I mean, I don't think you ulted much on first or second, but like if you just like land up here, right, like you're untouchable. You can slide off the roof, get a ton of intel, and if you decide you don't want it, you just like punch over or something, or like punch back across and get back to your team, right? Very hard to get punished by just like landing on these roofs. Yeah. Oh yeah, and prioritize off angles, right? Like just like if you're going to slam engage, you want to slam engage from behind, right? If you're on high ground above, right? You probably want to slam engage, so you probably want to set up on high ground behind them, right? Ideally. So like the reason why I wasn't like too critical of like the fact that you didn't take this high ground early in streets, right? Was because like you weren't really sure where the enemy was going, and then they set up really fast in front of you, so it's hard to get this high ground without getting punished, without burning a lot of cooldowns, right? But I would like to see you transition there in the middle of the fight, right? So like this is kind of like the idea of like McCree flanking, right? You don't want to immediately flank on McCree because it's telegraphed and it's like easy to punish, but you do want to like start off with your team and then drift, right? So like for example, you flank him as McCree is like a big commitment, but if like for example, you're playing with your team through this choke, right? And you're shooting, and as that like both teams are like running out of resources and they start like taking cover and they stop paying attention to each other, right? You can just like drift this way, and now you have a big flank, right? Even as your team is pushing through main again, right? So the same concept as Doom, right? If you can't get the flank like immediately, which you should try to get it, but if you can't get the flank set up, right? You punch, right? You uppercut, you slam, right? You're on the high ground, and you can very safely set up for another play, right? Or you can drop and grab Mega, right? There's a lot of ways you can play this from here, right? But you want to like grab these angles as soon as you can, right? So from here, right? Like instead of playing from here all the time, right? If the enemy team is all set up like in this back area, right? You kind of really want to be over here. And like this came up like quite a few times on this map, where it's just so hard to start a play from here. Yeah, timing wise, again, really try to sync with what your team is doing, right? You generally speaking, this is like a concept from StarCraft, actually. But like if you have an army and a drop, right? So like a big like the core force, which would be like Reinhardt and like you, right, as the drop, right? And then if you show the drop first, right, on the map to your opponent, right? Then that's a positioning drop because it's to get your army in position, right? But if you show your army first, then the drop is supposed to do damage because you're like you're trying to pull the enemy army out of position, so that way your drop like in like their main base or whatever will do damage. I don't know if you know anything about StarCraft, but it's kind of the same concept, except the drop in this case, you always want to do damage. So you should let your your army or the core of your team like pull attention first, because like having to pull attention as Doom feels terrible. um, unless you have ult, right? If you have ult, then you can, and your team has a really hard time getting position, then you can play make a distraction play and just like commit really hard, then ult, and then like regroup on a high ground somewhere, right? In the meantime, like your team like gets the space they're using, and then you still get to like make a damage play after the distraction play, right? But with Doomfist, like just pulling attention feels terrible, right? So you don't want to like pull attention to like have your Ryan do like 170 damage to their Ryan, right? Or 160, I guess. But that feels terrible, right? So you want to wait till your Ryan's into their Ryan, right? And then you make your play, and it's way better, right? Yeah, sorry, that was a bit too theoretical, I think. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know. And if you get to this part of the video, DM me what 9 plus 7 equals. End it here.